Greetings all! Today, we will be examining the rare Water-type Pokémon Panpour, the Spray Pokémon, and its exceptionally rare evolution Simipour, the Geyser Pokémon. Though they might not look to be the most threatening of creatures, the members of the Panpour family are interesting apes that can definitely use the power of the natural world to blast away those that would dare to challenge them. Panpour have traditional simian forms with 2 arms and legs, their feet having 3 toes each, and their hands a large pad-like hand form with thumb. Their lower face, torso, lower body and arms are covered in beige hair, while the rest of the hair on their body and skin is blue in color, including their thin tail, which ends in a blue structure with 3 bulbous protrusions used as siphons for water. Their ears are quite large with a light blue interior, and their nose is quite small, located between their large black eyes and mouth, and the top of their head has a blue bush-like form to it in which they store water. The evolved form, Simipour, have a similar color scheme to them, with a beige lower torso, hands, feet, and face, while the rest of them is blue in color, and the blue parts of their form are now quite silky and flow freely as if they were wet. They have white hair on their upper chest, and their tail has morphed at the end into a form similar to that seen in Panpour, but with more bulbous protrusions on its surface. Their head now has a flowing mane of hair that flows down and over their ears and the sides of their face, giving them a very human-like appearance, and they have 5 fingers on each hand, complete with opposable thumbs. The members of the Panpour family are typical monkeys in terms of their general anatomy, but they are distinct from most others in that they have a skewed gender ratio that favors males 8 to 1, but, more importantly, are able to use their bodies as a storage unit for water. Unlike most other animals, due to an abnormal genetic mutation, the cells of these creatures need to be turgid at nearly all times, meaning that the cells have to be near the point of bursting with water stored inside of them in order for them to function properly. So they have developed a special pouch of flesh on their head that is able to store water for long periods of time, which they can then slowly diffuse into the rest of their form over time to keep their bodies healthy and happy. This makes them great as storage carriers for the precious liquid, and are able to make good use of it as a weapon in battle, if only to a somewhat limited degree compared to other water-type Pokémon. This can make these Pokémon valuable to have when in desperate situations, but it is noted that as a consequence of this, they tend to perform quite poorly in environments where the temperature is high and humidity is low, so deserts are a big no-go for the entire family. Even so, they can make good use of their own anatomy to make themselves a nuisance, as they're able to raise their body temperature rapidly for short periods of time to heat up their stored water before releasing it, making them the only Pokémon, along with Volcanion, that are able to naturally learn the powerful Scald attack. Since it takes a lot of energy to absorb and retain water in their bodies, these creatures generally need all the energy they can get and will feed regularly in order to satiate their form, resulting in them having access to the Gluttony ability as their only base ability. But those that are particularly in tune with their natural water-type powers can also have access to the rare Torrent ability as a hidden ability. In terms of stats, in looking at Simipour, it can definitely be said that these creatures share with many mammalian Pokémon a distinct lack of serious defensive strength, having little in the way of armor to protect their bodies with only a moderate degree of stamina to work with, resulting in their base HP, defense, and special defense stats being below average for a fully evolved water-type Pokémon. On the other hand, these creatures are able to hit fairly hard with both physical and special attacks, and are incredibly agile and fast, so the base attack, special attack, and speed stats are all above average for a fully evolved Pokémon of their type. And even if they don't excel greatly in these stats, it nonetheless helps to make them well-rounded offensive fighters that can make the most of their general anatomy and powers to lash out and deal some considerable damage against others, and with the agility needed to hopefully avoid any counterattacks that might come their way. Panpour are fairly carefree creatures that can be found living in grasslands near ponds and other bodies of water, and are usually able to go long periods of time without having to take a drink, thanks to the water storage sacs in the tuft on their head, but it is noted that this water is not just beneficial to them. As it turns out, these creatures naturally produce nutrients in their bodies that are injected into the water they store to make it into a potent fertilizer, so when they release the water from their bodies, generally by spraying it from a siphon in their tail, they can help plants grow bigger and stronger than they might otherwise. They do the same thing to keep their bodies cooled off in warmer temperatures, spraying their entire forms with their water from their tail, and they can generally prove to be very helpful to others, doing the same for those that are in need of a drink or a way to cool off when refreshment is highly needed. This generous and happy disposition makes these creatures quite popular among younger trainers and are quite easy to train, but it should be noted that there is one attribute of theirs that does make them a bit tricky to work with sometimes. For reasons that are still not entirely clear, these creatures enjoy meditating when they can in order to hone their minds to keep themselves relaxed and calm in even the most intense of situations. However, when they do this, they enter a sort of trance that allows them to stay mostly conscious but causes sensory deprivation and removes the ability to see for a short period of time, like Mizaru, one of the 3 wise monkeys of Japanese origin, as they focus on keeping their minds calm and controlled. While this can make communicating with them a bit tricky as a result, this usually only lasts a few minutes at most and does not seem to do them a lot of harm, thus rendering it a minor issue that these creatures more than make up for with their wide variety of moves. Normally, Panpour are unable to evolve in any normal capacity and are able to spend most of their lives in a pseudo-juvenile state. But if they are exposed to the radiant energy of a water stone, it causes a rapid maturation and mutation of their form into a more adult-like state, facilitating their evolution into Simipour. While this process strips them of their capacity to learn any new moves naturally, it does give them a considerable boost to all of their stats and makes them a far more efficient combatant, and without much of a personality change in comparison to their contemporaries in the Pansage and Pansear families. Simipour are by far the most well-tempered of the 3 evolved forms of the elemental monkey trio formed by them, Simisage and Simisear, and are fairly easy to work with for the most part, even if their access to powerful water-type attacks is quite limited. These creatures use the siphon that is in their tails to suck up water when their internal reserves run low, and they can only use their water-type attacks for so long before they run out of power, their attacks diminishing in strength as these internal reserves are drained. This is part of the reason why they are unable to naturally learn the Hydro Pump attack that is otherwise a staple for many water-type Pokemon families. Even so, this does not mean that they should be underestimated, as these creatures are able to reverse the flow of water in their tails in order to fire it back out at incredible velocities, enough so that they can destroy concrete walls with a single powerful blast, and more than earn the species title of the Geyser Pokémon. Though they might have a preference for clean water in order to maintain their health, these beasts are able to perform these moves and tricks just about anywhere where there is a source of water, and can thus prove to be quite the nuisance to have to face if their access to water, and in turn their best special offenses, cannot be turned off forcefully. While they might not be the easiest of Pokemon to get a hold of in many cases, the members of the Panpour family are loyal and fun-loving creatures that can definitely be a joy to work with if they can be utilized effectively in battle. You might have to go out of your way to find a rare water stone to make the most of them, but at the very least they can prove to be extremely agile and offensive fighters that can bring plenty of different offenses to the table and work well with anything they have access to. Even if you don't really want to battle with them, these creatures can still make themselves of some use with their water reserves, and can definitely make a hot and dry day much better. Just make sure not to tick them off, as while they are normally very slow to anger, these monkeys won't be afraid to turn the nozzle on full blast if they have to, and blast you away completely, though how far might only be a matter of how close you are to a body of water at the time. Thank you all for watching this video. It is always an honor to be able to speak with you all on the subject of Pokemon in a way that brings me great joy and happiness in my work. If you would like to keep tabs on past and future work, click that subscribe button, check out my work on DeviantArt, and don't be shy about following me on Twitter, where you can find pertinent announcements on upcoming work before it is officially posted. Links to both can be found in the video description. If you would like to support my work and help Miguel and I continue to produce more content for you and improve upon our presentation, please visit us at my Patreon page, which you can also find a link to in the video description.
No.
With that, I thank you for watching and I wish you well.